Now, somebody asked me, beyond the haters and the weird people in OVO who may be lurking, if Drake was actually watching this, would you say it? How would you say it? And would you step down from doing the thing? Which I told him that if Aubrey was watching, what I would simply say is, now when it comes to Drake! Shout out to all the fans, the haters, and the stans. And if you are ready to see how Drake just sent a diss that seems to be very targeted to people like me, and while a few others who are just not letting his fall off happen in peace, and also things just got a lot weirder with everything going on with the whole ghostwriter situation, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And now really, as we got a lot to cover here from Fraudbury, and it's gonna be a good one because the guy is crashing out, make sure to leave those likes, because right now, it feels like we are at a point with this downfall, which has just been so surreal to see just in terms of the optics of where things have fallen. That now with Drake and his failure as a figure in rap, as a giant in the industry, and even just a celebrity or influencer who commands like a half of a quarter of the respect that he used to, that's all gone. And when you look at Drake's checklist of people that he can try to start beefs with and try to just make his stan base mad at, also that he can try to look tough and galvanize them around some lame cause that I guess will keep them into the sadness of being OVO enough that it won't make them run away and just actually try to find a good artist and good music to listen to instead. Well, now when you look at Drake's list, Kendrick Lamar is no longer somebody who he feels confident enough to talk to. Same with Pusha T, same with A$AP Rocky now, and same with pretty much any other rapper. And at least for the time being, Drake seems too intimidated to even diss LeBron James, DeMar DeRozan, or anybody within that echelon of people who are big figures but can't actually rap. So, for what you're doing, you can get the benefits of having a high-profile beef without actually having the chance to have a diss track be dropped on you. Well, now with all of that, Drake has moved down the list, and seemingly who he is coming at now, well, is me, but not actually me directly, but people like me, and what I would say when you look at things across the board. Pretty much just anybody who is speaking out and making sure that no matter what Drake does and no matter how he tries to really cover up this fall off and do whatever other crash out things are going on, well, he is talking to all of us, and what he is pretty much doing is trying to speak and call for an end, I guess, on conversations like the ones we are having, where again, no matter how you want to frame it, we are looking at the self-induced fall off that is all coming from Drake based on every action that he is doing. And for Drake to be at a point where he is continuing to fall off and embarrass himself, but he's not even trying to engage in actual beefs, and he's just asking for everybody in hip-hop media to stop talking about him? We can't say that, but get out of here, Cupcake, because this is only gonna make us make fun of you more, and it's really only showing how much everything is getting to you. And so what Drake did to send this message and to send out a classic Cupcake post where, he's talking more on the captions than he ever would in his music, well, is with this weird photo collage where he made the caption, "Welcome to the era of every action has a reaction, ... video." And we get it, Drake, and we know who you are talking about, and we know that you're mad at all of us. And I guess that goes from the Charlemagnes and the Joe Buttons to people like me, my guy Screwface, and everybody else. But I mean, this really just does seem like a classic Bratbury move, because what this really does look like and what it really does stand for, if we break it down, is that Drake has just reached a point where he has realized, I guess in some sort of a way, that he is going to continue to fall off no matter what. And so instead of doing anything that is commanding respect, helping his image, or just giving him any sort of positive goodwill, he is just trying to make fun of the people who are making fun of him for how bad everything he set up is. Which, listen, let's just break this down for a second. When you spend 15 years calling yourself the best rapper, pretty much taking that mantle without actually earning it, doing everything that dispels hip-hop culture, like making labels not release music from the guy who won a beef against you in Pusha T, and then also calling yourself the face of hip-hop while not actually writing your raps, and we're going to get more into that later, but that, of course, is a whole mess that really, when we look at what has happened to hip-hop over the past 10 or 15 years, I think has just set things back in ways that we can't even really fathom, just in terms of how inauthentic everything has become. But pretty much with all of that, to take the hip-hop we love, ruin it, and then frame yourself as the Michael Jackson of the era and time we are in, which that's not about talent or anything like that. But in this era of music, especially when you call yourself the Michael Jackson, because I don't want this to be a gotcha moment, and Kendrick Lamar even echoed this very sentiment, so you can't even make it one. Well, as we are in an era and in a culture where, because of the precedents you set, the numbers pretty much meant every single thing that you could have gotten in terms of validation for being the best in this weird world that we created. And then again, you were the MJ figure. Pretty much now with this downfall, what we saw was Michael and Prince go at it, and after the fact, well, Prince just became the biggest artist in the world by far, and at the same time, the Michael figure had the greatest fall off we have ever seen. And if any artist anywhere near this stature, just in terms of the branding of what they were framed to be, had a downfall this colossal, it would be covered and talked about the exact same way, which for Drake, you can try to sit here and get mad at all of us for just looking at the things you are doing that are both ruining your career, ruining hip-hop, and severing yourself from the future from it altogether. But again, when you decided to take a crown that was never yours and stand on that throne with somebody else's notebook and a pad and paper of lies, this is what you get, and this is what you deserve. So what I think I say when I speak for all of us is that no matter how you try to make fun of anybody in this space, whether it's somebody like me or a giant like a Joe Budden, and no matter what weird and cringe things you try to post about mozzarella sticks or whatever, well, Drake, as long as you stay outside and you try to win back your ranking in the rap world, all in the most embarrassing and baffling ways that I have ever seen a lyrical titan, well, you're not, but you know what I'm saying, a ghostwriting cosplayer poser try to dominate and control and facilitate something in this space, well, we are going to continue to talk about it because in this era where we saw the biggest beef and conflict really in the history of hip-hop, and honestly, if we look at music this decade, Kendrick versus Drake was the biggest thing culturally to happen in maybe the entire entertainment industry by far. Just get out of here, because just like we've been looking at every single step on Kendrick's run, which has pretty much only bettered him and made him a bigger and bigger force as the #1 leader in hip-hop with every move, we're being fair and we're looking at what you're doing, which again is just a long-term reaction and response to how the biggest musical conflict we have ever seen went down. But for Drake, as you're getting this angry in the caption game, I do get it, because clearly with what else is going on, you don't have any other options and anything that you could fall back on, because clearly right now with your ghostwriters, things are getting really bad. And listen, I do think we are at a point where a lot more stuff is going to unfold with that, so I'm just putting that out there and putting that in as a prediction. But already, with the whole thing around Drake and maybe his #1 ghostwriter since Quentin Miller in Beam, things are going really bad here. And after the first reference track came out and we saw how much of a fraud Drake really is, well, Beam's producer has continued to go crazy, and he is showing right now he is really mad at Drake. And Drake must have messed up in some shape or form, because the stuff that this guy is putting out is genuinely mind-boggling. As now with a long rant on Beam's producer's story where he was calling out Drake and seemingly predicting some of the things that he thinks is going to happen in the near future. As well, the producer is doubling down on a lot of the ideas that Kendrick Lamar put on Meet the Grams and is even taking them further and putting them in a more real way. Well, what we are seeing right now is that Beam and his team are definitely within some sort of a conflict and beef with Drake, and it looks like things are not going to get better between the two, because with Beam's go-to producer really talking about Drake the way you can see on the screen, and you see him just alluding to the idea that there's a lot more stuff for the cupcake that we are going to find out and is going to be exposed that goes even deeper than music. This just can't end well, and to be honest, the situation is already spiraling out of control, because now beyond the reference tracks, Beam's producers even exposing other people within this situation, like Tyga. But where things get really crazy is now where, if we see what Drake has been doing and what he just showed within the post where he got mad at all of us, is that right now he is currently on a little trip in the Bahamas. And so what Beam's producer said and kind of called out, and there is a lot to think about here, just put out this simple question of why Drake is hiding there. And with that, and with him saying wrong timing, listen, just with the way that this is all going down and with the way everybody is talking, something is very odd here. And after Beam's producer went on this rant, what it seems like we found out, well, is after putting out some more things there which aligned with what Kendrick was saying on Meet the Grams and Not Like Us and in a literal way, Well, what the producer ended up saying is that he ended up meeting with people in OVO, and they were not happy with him, to just say the very least here. But now, with all of that, listen, well, there are a lot of different ways you can put this, and on one way, you could say that this is all 100% real about Drake, and the things and the lies are starting to be exposed. Just because of where everything is at right now, if we just want to take what this situation means at the very least, what we are seeing is that Drake's circle and the people who made sure that Drake always had reference tracks to perform and characters to play in his music, well, just consistently for 10 years or so, are now all flipping on him, and they are starting to turn in a way where at the very least, they are using these narratives and things to try and just create trouble for him and make people turn against him. And again, either way, whether this is fully true or there is a lot of truth within this, or people who were in Drake's circle are trying to make things messy for him after they found out, I guess, how bad of a person he really could be, whether this turns out to be the best case or the worst case situation, just in terms of the optics of Drake's ghostwriting team and one of the go-to producers within that circle saying this, and then doing all this, this does seem like a moment for Drake where things are coming and crumbling down, and where something is going to happen that's going to change his music career at the very least. Because just for somebody in Beam's team to be at this much of odds with him, which probably means that Beam went against him as well, because I'm sure these people are moving in unison, well, Drake now is seemingly out of a lot of material, and really the main character that he has been playing in his music for maybe 10 years at this point. We really don't know how much the duration and how much Beam has written really ends up being, but it does seem to be a lot, and maybe like out of all the Drake ghostwriters, he was the #1 guy who was giving him the most material. And so listen, just with this, what we can say at the very least is that now while Drake is crashing out and trying to get people to stop covering things like this, and at the same time we are seeing more come out about how much of a fake he has been as an artist for all of these years, well listen Drake, this is why we are not going to stop, because what we are seeing right now, especially with artists who are supposed to be a part of your team and circle coming out and speaking out against you like this, well it's showing that this guy who was built up as the MJ of this generation and who was supposed to be the king of the game that we all cared about so much, the era and things you did when you were on top are worse than we could have ever imagined. And really with all these things starting to come to light, and really with your team finally abandoning you, well now what we can say is at the very least there is a chance, and yes, a very decent chance, that after all of this plays out, we can truly find out how much you lied on everything, and just with that, see how much maybe Kendrick Lamar really was fully serious about in his diss tracks as a whole. And you know, as it does seem like in the history of hip-hop, we get to see these almost canon-like events within Drake's career, and just finding out how much of a lie the person we have seen really is, well, through his ghostwriters acting out against him, turning on him, and revealing or exposing what really happens behind the scenes, whether it's the ghostwriter directly themselves or somebody around them, or even somebody like a Meek Mill who got the word that Drake really isn't writing and doing the things that he says he was. Well, once again, to quote a Kendrick record, I think things have the chance to get crazy, scary, spooky, and hilarious all at the same time, and at that in the month of October's very own, just because we are really seeing so much slip through the cracks in the OVO camp, and in terms of finding out that Drake is really just one of the biggest frauds we have ever seen in the history of music and in hip-hop, in every which way that you want to put it, spin it, and frame it. And so, you know, with this ghostwriter stuff, well, I guess we only can anticipate what is going to happen next with Beam's team and camp starting to speak out against Drake like the way we have seen. I do think what really a lot of Drake's reputation is going to bank on, and what he really doesn't want to come out, are going to be more reference tracks for some of the most lyrical songs he has ever released. Because if any songs where Drake is really rapping instead of just poorly singing end up dropping, and we hear that again, Drake didn't scribble in his notepad and create his own life, but somebody scribbled in their notepad, created a life for Drake, and gave it to him like he was playing a sitcom character, ultimately things are really just gonna fly off the handle. And I do think as rap fans we need to get ready for the reality and get ready for the point where we are going to find out that Drake has more in common with the Dean from Community, with George Costanza, and with Leon Black than just a Kendrick Lamar, a J. Cole, an Eminem, a Jay-Z, or any rapper who can hold themselves up and say that they are hip-hop Hall of Famers, or at the very least, they just know how to treat the game. So yeah, that's all I got today. Let me know your thoughts on Drake trying to deflect and dodge any sort of accountability in this fall off like a loser as usual, and what do you think about everything going on with the ghostwriters as well, and where do you think this situation is going to go, because I definitely think that things really did just get crazy. Now, if you made it to this point in the video, what I want to say is thank you so much for your support, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you have a great week. And listen, if you want to stick around, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help me out a ton, and if you want to see how right before this, well, what already happened with Drake's ghostwriting situation is bad, and if it ends up really going the way that it's starting to look, he may end up quitting all music together. You're not going to want to miss this one. Check out the suggested video.